What is going on, Headliner Nation? Today we're talking about our quarterback and tight end rankings for Week 6 fantasy football. Now, like usual, this is our last rankings video to come out here today on Thursday. If you're looking for more rankings, like flex rankings, kicker rankings, defense rankings, we have those as well. They're a member perk, so consider hitting that little blue join button here just underneath the video. You'll not only get those bonus rankings, but you're going to get some film reviews, some bonus content on the channel, a members-only live stream on Sunday, and access to our Discord, which is hands down best in the industry. In fact, if you're watching this and you're a member right now, leave a comment down below and let everybody know if they should become a member here of the official Headliner Nation. But now we're going to dive into our quarterback rankings, and sitting number 1 here this week, it's Patrick Mahomes. And I just can't help it. When we see a player going up against this Denver Broncos defense, I get a little bit excited. And when it's Patrick Mahomes, you better believe I'm a lot excited. That's why I got him at number 1. But then for number 2, this is where I have Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. Dude is just scoring fantasy points left and right. Now he's going to be back at home against a New York Giants defense that he should be able to take advantage of. He's at number 2. Number 3, it's Lamar Jackson. This guy is playing great football. Why is it not translating into huge fantasy points every single week? Because his wide receivers need to catch the football. They had 7 drops last week alone. They're going to have to right that ship this week in a good matchup against Tennessee. Got Lamar at number 3. Number 4, this is where I have Jalen Hurts, a difficult matchup for Jalen Hurts, and that's why I've dropped him down a couple spots, going up against this New York Jets defense that we've seen limit the likes of a Patrick Mahomes here in the recent future, so Jalen Hurts at number 4. Number 5, this is where I have Justin Fields. He's moved back up the rankings, but this is more so because of his matchup going up against Minnesota. The Minnesota defense has not been great as of late, and the way that Justin Fields is connecting with DJ Moore, I got him up here at number 5. Number 6, this is where I have Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins, going to be at home going up against the Carolina Panthers. I've continued to say this in almost every one of my videos this week because I want people to understand it. The Miami Dolphins have more yards through the first 5 weeks of 2023 than any other team in history through 5 weeks. Those are the types of players we really want in our fantasy lineups. They have matchup winning upside. So even though this is a difficult matchup, I still got Tua at 6. Which will then take us down to number 7, is where I have Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. This one a little bit more matchup based as well. He's going up against Indianapolis, a team in which he's already played this season back in week 1 and found success against. I got him at number 7. Number 8, Justin Herbert, coming off his bye week, going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, for multiple weeks this season, people have been talking up the Dallas defense, but once they were actually tested against the San Francisco 49ers, they folded. I don't dislike Justin Herbert coming off the bye. I got him at number 8. Number 9, it's Kirk Cousins. Would love to have him higher in this matchup going up against Chicago, but yes, by this point, we all know there's no Justin Jefferson on the field, so Kirk Cousins sitting at number 9. Number 10, this is where Matthew Stafford is sitting of the Los Angeles Rams. In his first game back last week, Cooper Kupp looked just fine. And the fact that this is still a high-powered passing offense, they got Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell as well. I got Matthew Stafford at number 10 going up against Arizona. Number 11, it's Joe Burrow, and he's slowly climbing back up the ranks. Going to be at home against the Seattle Seahawks. Last week, the healthiest he's looked all season long, so hopefully he's finally starting to get closer and closer to 100%. He's at number 11. Number 12, it's Jared Goff in a matchup on the road going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sounds like we're going to have Amon-Ra back this week. And whenever we have an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a Josh Reynolds, a Jamison Williams, a Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, all available to Jared Goff, he has a tendency to put up some pretty solid fantasy numbers. I got him at number 12. 13, this is where I have Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers. Another very difficult matchup going up against the Cleveland Browns. However, is it another team that he can exploit because they just haven't been tested on defense much? We haven't seen this San Francisco offense really be stopped by anyone. Does that mean that this is going to be some easy cakewalk for Brock Purdy? No, but he's got so many different types of weapons to use, it's really hard to not consider him a consistent option once again, just outside my top 12 and number 13. 14 is Geno Smith coming off his bye week, going on the road to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. Now, hopefully during their bye week, they were able to address this passing game, which has kind of been hit or miss over the past couple weeks. That's why he's at 14. 15 is CJ Stroud in a difficult matchup going up against the New Orleans Saints. But really one of the only reasons I have CJ Stroud a couple spots lower than maybe I would like is because we don't know about Tank Dell just yet. Still currently in the concussion protocol. If he clears, I could see CJ Stroud jumping up to about 13 or 14. Number 16, it's Russell Wilson, Denver Broncos playing Thursday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs. I do expect the Chiefs to be able to score on this Denver defense though, which is going to keep Russell Wilson throwing. That's why he's a solid QB2 this week at number 16. 17 is where I have Gardner Minshew of the Indianapolis Colts going up against his former team on the road in Jacksonville against the Jaguars. Now, Minshew doesn't have the ceiling of an Anthony Richardson, but he's got a pretty safe floor and is going to be able to move the ball through the air there for Indianapolis. That's why he's at 17. 18 is Dak Prescott going to be on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers. Not a bad matchup whatsoever, but Dak Prescott in his play as of late just hasn't given anybody a lot of excitement to throw into their fantasy lineups. That's why he's at number 18. 19 is Baker Mayfield coming off the bye week, going to be playing against the Detroit Lions at home there in Tampa Bay. Now, Baker's obviously been playing pretty good football for the most part this season, but does he have Mike Evans? He's still questionable with a hamstring injury, and that's something we're paying close attention to. Sam Howell at number 20 on the road in Atlanta. This Atlanta defense has been shutting people down almost every single week. Not going to be as easy as it was for Sam Howell last week against Chicago. More difficult matchup, got him down at number 20. 21, it's Josh Dobbs of the Arizona Cardinals. Had a down week last week, now has to travel on the road to LA to face the Rams and their tough secondary, so Dobbs is at 21. 22 is Jimmy G going up against his former team, the New England Patriots. A Patriots team that may not be what they have been in the past, but Jimmy G needs to stop throwing interceptions. They're happening way too often. He's at 22. 23 is Derek Carr, not putting up any big numbers since suffering that injury a couple weeks ago. The ball is just not going deep enough down the field, and we're not seeing enough touchdowns to really want to put him in our lineup just yet. Plus, he's going up against Houston, another team whose defense is underrated. Then 24, it's Bryce Young. Carolina Panthers going up against Miami. Bryce Young coming off his best game of the season, traveling to Miami, a team that's going to put up points against the Carolina Panthers, which means Bryce Young is going to have to continue to throw for all 4 quarters, and that's why I got him at 24. But this isn't where the rankings stop. Now we're going to transition from quarterbacks to tight ends, but to do that, I got to throw it over to Kyle.
Headliners, we saw a nice bounce back from the tight end position last week. We saw 9 guys go over 12 or more fantasy points, which is the highest number we have seen so far this season. But will that continue on to week 6? I don't think so. Week 6, not looking nearly as good for some of these tight ends, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and hop into the rankings. I got my top 18 tight ends for you this weekend, and a few more that are just on the outside looking in, and I think we all know who's going to be number 1. We're going to lock Travis Kelce in at number 1 overall. With that ankle sprain that he had last week, he was able to come back to the game. He scored a touchdown. He didn't practice earlier in the week, but he is expected to play on Thursday Night Football, going up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Okay, the worst defense in the NFL, and one of the worst defenses that we've seen over the past several years. The Denver Broncos, we should be able to lock this guy in for at least a touchdown this weekend. TJ Hockenson going up against Chicago. He continues to get a really nice amount of volume, 8 or more targets in 3 games so far this year. I really want to see TJ Hockenson reach a little bit more of that ceiling this week. And if Chicago can be competitive against Minnesota or put him in a negative game script with no Justin Jefferson, TJ Hockenson should see more than enough targets to reach that ceiling. Sam Laporta at number 3 going up against Tampa Bay. This is what Detroit does well. They have such a strong run game that what they'll do is they'll pound the football at you. They'll run a really nice play action call, and Sam Laporta will start blocking and then just slip past everybody because they're so determined to try and stop the run. Tampa Bay's defense is known to give up some big plays. Sam Laporta is known to make some big plays. I think he'll make some big plays this weekend against Tampa Bay. At number 4, Mark Andrews. The Titans allow the 8th fewest fantasy points to the tight end position, but they are ranked 23rd against the pass right now. Andrews sees more than enough volume, averaging 5 targets a game so far this season and just over 12 fantasy points. Now, a large chunk of those points came in a 2-touchdown game, but going up against Tennessee, where they might not be able to run the ball that well, Mark Andrews should still see a decent amount of volume. At number 5, Evan Ingram. The Colts defense is ranked 28th against the pass right now, but they've done a decent job of limiting tight ends. They're really kind of middle of the road in terms of tight end production. So for Evan Ingram this week, once again, it's all about the floor. 4. Last week was the first week he did not finish as a top 12 tight end. He sees a decent amount of targets. He averages 6 receptions a game right now. So for me and Evan Ingram, he might not have reached the upside that we would like because he's not scoring any touchdowns and he's not putting together huge games, but he's putting together safe games, and sometimes that's all we need for tight ends. Minnesota's defense can be hit or miss. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't, and hopefully they don't show up for Cole Kmet owners this week because we need another big week. Now, I just want to caution everybody with Cole Kmet. This happened last year, right? He had some big games, and then he disappeared for the rest of the season. So just be very cautious when it comes to that with Cole Kmet. I don't want to overvalue him too much, but with the way this Bears offense has played to start the year, Cole Kmet definitely deserves a top 6 spot in my rankings this week. At number 7, we've got Logan Thomas going up against the Atlanta Falcons that allow the second most fantasy points to the tight end position so far this year. They do a good job of stopping the pass. They can't stop tight ends, apparently. Logan Thomas coming off a really good Thursday night performance last week. He's got a couple of touchdowns now on the season and barely averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game. But based on the other options that we have, not only is Logan Thomas hot, but he's got a great matchup. He deserves to be up here this high in the rankings this week. In number 8 and number 9, I got Dallas Goedert and George Kittle. And you might think they deserve to be higher after last week, but some of the guys in front of them have just given me more than one good performance. I've seen a little bit more consistency out of them. So for Dallas Goedert this week, he's got a great matchup. The Jets allow the most fantasy points to the tight end position. And Dallas Goedert could definitely see a good amount of targets this week because when you take a look at the tough matchups potentially on the outside, maybe some of those targets funnel over the middle to Goedert. And as far as Goedert's upside goes, I would put him up as far as probably tight end 4. But in terms of his floor, because we know he's disappeared so many times this year, he could be down as far as number 8. Right now, instead of ranking these guys based on upside, I'm ranking them based on safety for the week. And this week, I think there's just a few guys a little safer than Dallas Goedert. And for George Kittle, it's a tough matchup this week. It's going up against the number 1 ranked defense for the Cleveland Browns. He looked really good last week, but everybody is healthy. And is he just going to have some of these plays where he just slips out like he did last week and scores a touchdown? Maybe not. So once again, I'm just being cautiously optimistic, and I'm kind of putting these guys ranked at their floor instead of ranking them at their ceiling. Zach Ertz with a pretty good matchup at number 10, going up against the LA Rams, who have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to the tight end position. Now, a touchdown last week saves Zach Ertz, but there's been times this season where he's seeing 10, 9 targets a game. And going up against the Rams, Arizona's probably going to have to throw the ball a little bit. They're missing James Conner. That could be some extra targets right there. And if they're not good running the ball against a defense that is pretty stout against the run, they're going to have to throw it a little bit more often, and Zach Ertz could be that nice safety blanket for Dobbs this week. Jonnu Smith at number 11, he's seeing a good amount of targets, and actually he's a lot safer than Kyle Pitts. He's been way more consistent since week 1 than what Kyle Pitts has been, and Kyle Pitts is coming off a better game last week, but Jonnu Smith, again, if I'm doing rankings according to safety, he's definitely higher than Kyle Pitts. Hunter Henry at number 12 going up against Las Vegas. I think they're going to have to utilize Hunter Henry this week, and I think they're going to take a look at how bad the last couple of weeks have been and look back to how well they played the first 2 weeks of the season, and you say, you know what? What's one of the key factors here? It's Hunter Henry. We need to get him involved again. At number 13, Darren Waller going up against Buffalo. He's dealing with a hamstring injury right now, and that's why I've got him lower. If we find out that he's completely cleared, no limitations, I would probably put him up at number 11 in front of Jonnu Smith. But given the fact that we know that he's had some issues re-aggravating injuries in the past, especially soft tissue injuries, I'm being very cautious with him this week. At number 14, Kyle Pitts. I've got him outside the top 12 again this week because you know what? For Kyle Pitts to succeed, the stars have to align. And are they going to align 2 straight weeks? It's just not something I'm willing to bet on right now. Jake Ferguson at number 15 going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. Dak is probably going to have to throw the ball a little bit. It's going to have to happen. However, the Chargers have been pretty good about limiting tight end upside. And these rankings, once again, are based on safety. So if I'm talking about how safe Jake Ferguson is, he's definitely a lot lower than some of these other guys. If you want me to talk about his upside, though, if you're looking for an upside play this week, then Jake Ferguson is a guy that I definitely could put all the way up above Zach Ertz at number 10. but he just hasn't impressed me. The Dallas offense hasn't impressed me, and will they be able to get it going against Los Angeles? Dalton Schultz has played very well the last 2 weeks, but he's got an almost impossible matchup against New Orleans this week. I don't know if I can bank on Dalton Schultz. Once again, upside if he scores a touchdown, maybe he goes a little bit higher, but from a floor perspective, he doesn't have much more room than this right here. David Njoku, I don't know if you've seen the picture on Twitter. The burns that he sustained 2 weeks ago and then came out and played right afterwards is absolutely insane. This guy is tough as nails, but that doesn't take away the fact that he hasn't done anything a majority of the weeks this season. Deshaun Watson is banged up. He is also banged up, and they're facing one of the toughest defenses in football. Gerald Everett at number 18 going up against Dallas. My hope is that he finds himself in the slot a little bit more this week with Josh Palmer on the outside. Because we don't know that for certain, I just can't go any higher than this. But if we can get him about 6 receptions this week, he definitely could be a low to high end tight end too. All right, a few guys that are on the outside looking in. I'm going to hit on them real quick, and we're going to go from there. Tyler Higbee going up against Arizona. When you got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp looking good, Tyler Higbee's just not going to get enough targets, and Arizona actually does pretty well against tight ends. Tyler Conklin against Philadelphia. Again, not a great matchup. If you're trying to start Tyler Conklin, you're hoping for like 4 fantasy points. But hey, they could be there. Saw a little bit more targets last week from Zach Wilson. Dawson Knox at number 21. Dalton Kincaid is still in the concussion protocol. So if Dalton Kincaid ends up missing, Dawson Knox probably jumps into my top 18. I probably put him at 16 right in front of Dalton Schultz. He's definitely going to have an opportunity to score a touchdown, but he could see some increased volume if Dalton Kincaid cannot go this week. Hayden Hurst at Miami, not the best matchup in the world for him, but if it's negative game script for Carolina, maybe Hayden Hurst can find us the end zone. Donald Parham, basically the same thing. If you're trying to start Donald Parham, you're keeping your fingers crossed for a touchdown. If he doesn't score the touchdown, it's just not going to work for you this week. And then Cade Otton at number 24. For me, when I talk about Cade Otton against Detroit, the matchup is there. Detroit has not done great against tight ends this season so far, but Cade Otton really hasn't been involved either, and they've got 4 wide receivers. They're kind of rotating in and out. The biggest thing will be is Mike Evans out this week. If Mike Evans ends up missing, then maybe I bump Cade Otton up a little bit as well. There you go, Headliner Nation, my top 18 tight ends and a few guys that you might be asking questions about as well. Hit that like button for us, and depending on when this video comes out, we may already be at 200,000 subscribers. But if you happen to be watching this and you're not subscribed, if you could help us hit that goal, or if we're past it, go even further, it'd be greatly appreciated. And I can guarantee you that if you stick around for a while, you're going to enjoy what you get here. I'm going to get out of here though. Peace out, Headliner Nation. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.